Hey there! Is today your first time here? Or maybe your first time in a while? If so, maybe you're wondering exactly who we are and what this church is all about. Well, we'd like you to know that we're a group of ordinary people who are on an amazing journey together, following Christ. Our guide is the Bible because it's the divinely inspired Word of God, and it will never take us in the wrong direction. Along the way, we hope you'll see that we are welcoming and spiritually passionate, and that getting to know you is a big deal to us. We know that the road is rough sometimes, but we'll work really hard to bring you practical and relevant messages to equip and encourage you through life's ups and downs. We want you to know that we care about this community, and we believe that it's our job to make it a better place. So, no matter who you are or where you've been, we're glad you're here with us today, and we hope that you'll join us on our journey, following Christ and living out His plan for us. So, welcome to church.
Let us. Good morning to everyone. It's always a privilege to be in the house of the Lord and also to preach. Thus saith the Lord. And when we come, the word is the most important thing for us. Now this morning, I know this is Palm Sunday leading up to Easter. You know, this is the Easter week. We're coming up about this time. Jesus Christ was going into Jerusalem, and they're saying, "Hail him, hail him, the King of the Jews." And by Friday, they say, "Nail him, nail him." So I always tell people, the crowd is fickle. Do not so much follow the crowd. You enter politics one time, you're the man, yeah. 5 years after, get rid of him. So the crowd is fickle. I always say, as one person say, take praise and also take rebuke in the same balance. Now, with that said, I know we were looking for a Palm Sunday message, but I am going to finish. The Lord just impressed on my heart to finish up on vanity in the book of Ecclesiastes. Today we're going to look at justice. Justice, and even when we think about the Easter season, justice is in play, and at the end of it, I am going to tie it in. Now, when we think of justice, we look at the injustice that is going on all around us. All of us, when something happens to us, we want justice. We want the wrong to make right. But we want equal justice for the wrong that has been displayed. But oftentimes when we think of justice and we look at what's going on in the world, justice many times is not administered properly. You know, we get the word justice, just, right, to make right, or equal punishment for the wrong, or repayment for the wrong that has been committed and that has been done. Let me say this as we continue. Justice and law is not necessarily the same. Always remember this. Justice and law are not synonymous. Because the other time you can have a bad law, it doesn't mean that you're going to give justice. You know, for instance, I was looking at the news this week, and they were saying in New York City, the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, they're going into people homes in New York and squatting. Right? And if the home is vacated 30 days, anybody could go in there and squat, and you, the tenant, can't push them out. That's the law. But is that right? That's not justice. You see, something made legal doesn't mean that it is what? Just. Because there are what you call unjust laws. So get that right. Because the law of the land say marriage is between two males, is that just? No. Because the law says it, it doesn't mean that it is what? Just. You have what you call unjust laws. So not everything is legal necessarily means that it is what? Just. And many times you go to court, justice is not administered, but because of the tenet of the law, the judge has to go because what the law says. But then, when you look, it is not a just outcome. So, something that is legal does not necessarily equate to what? Justice. Always remember that. I remember people who pass laws, they go in, they pass laws that is going to be advantageous to what? Them. So we got to, because it's the law, does not mean it's just. Now with that said, when we think of justice, there are some words that we have to consider. The word equity. We think of that word equity. Equity comes from the word equal, balance. Something that is equal and something that is balanced. We think of the word prudence. You hear of Jewish prudence, right? Think is fear. When you think of prudence, we think fear. Something that is, this is a fair deal. This is honest deal. This is where you get the word just from. Now, in the book of Ecclesiastes and Proverbs, we see a lot of that theme, justice. In Proverbs, justice is often portrayed as a virtue that leads to righteousness and societal harmony. By the way, another word for justice is righteousness. Right. Something that a person who is righteous, dealing right. You understand? Right. Righteousness. For instance, in Proverbs, justice is a virtue. Proverbs chapter 21:15 states, when justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. Here, justice is depicted as a force that rewards the righteous and punish the wicked, emphasizing its importance in maintaining order and fairness. Now let me say this. Today man is trying to come up with their own just laws and virtues. But we cannot have true justice without God. But Brother Dixon, how could you say that? When we think of justice, the idea of ontology come into play. Ontology has to do with morality. How do you know what is right and how do you know what is wrong? That's the study of ontology. Now, how do you know when something is right and something is wrong? Now, in the book of Judges, chapter 2, I think it's verse 10. You can pull it up for me, please. Judges 2:10. 9 and 10. The Bible said that the children of Israel, after Joshua died, there rose up a generation that did not know the Lord. But look at this. The whole generation was also gathered to their ancestor. Joshua died. After them, another generation rose up who did not know the Lord or the works he had done for Israel. Next verse. And Israel did what was evil in the Lord's sight. They worshipped the Baals. Next verse, continue. And abandoned the Lord, the God, their fathers, who had brought them out of Egypt. They went after other gods from the surrounding people and bowed down to them. They infuriated the Lord, for they abandoned him and worshipped Baal and the Ashtoreth. Next verse. And the Lord angered and burned against Israel. He handed them over to the murderers and who raided them, who sold them to their enemies around them, so that they could no longer resist their enemies. So we see what happened. After Joshua died, a generation grew up that did not know the Lord. Now, the Bible goes on to say, and everyone did that was right in their own eyes. Now, I'm going to say this. What you think and what you believe is not necessarily the truth or just. Today we have twist words. And you hear people say, that is your truth. That is my truth. No, that is your opinion. There is one truth and many opinions. If you say, that's your truth and that's my truth, who right? Truth always is right. That's your opinion. But we have twist the word opinion and say, I'm naming truth. This is my truth. No, truth cannot be wrong. Truth is right all the time, every time. When we talk about truth, there's three components of truth. First of all, it must be universal. Second, it must be constant. Third, it must be constant. And that's the premise of truth. So when you say, this is my truth, all you're saying is, this is my opinion. Truth is truth. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, truth is what? Truth. So in order for us to get truth, the Bible said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you what? Free. When you go to court, you want truth. The judge don't want your opinion. They want the facts. You understand? The Bible said, in what is truth? Jesus, what is truth? Jesus could have said, you're looking at truth. For the Bible said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So outside of that, man is going to pass laws based on their opinion, not necessarily on truth. And because of that, we have problems with what? Justice. Now, in the book of Ecclesiastes, on the other hand, where Proverbs look at justice as a virtue, on the other hand, Ecclesiastes take, sometimes you have these gadgets, a more contemplative approach, where Solomon sit down and contemplate, reflecting on the seeming injustices and iniquities of life. In Ecclesiastes 3:16, 17, it acknowledges the existence of injustice in the world. And it says, and I saw something else under the sun. In the place of judgment, wickedness was there. You look at that? And in the place of justice, wickedness was there. And in the place of justice, wickedness was there. And I said to myself, God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked. For there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. So, in Ecclesiastes, we see the idea where justice is there, wickedness is right there. In the book of Isaiah made a statement, truth and justice is on the throne. And because of that, the scaffold of truth is shaking. Sometimes you have an unjust ruler. And because of that, justice will not prevail. Now the problem that we have, a lot of reasons that why people don't believe in God. If God is God, why there's so much evil? And it comes down to one thing. It's not that God is evil because men are evil. We are living in an evil world. And to find proper justice in an evil world, in unjust, blame God. The Lord said, the day that you eat of the fruit, you shall surely die sin. Because we are sinners. People who write and administrate the laws, they are sinners too. And because they are sinners, many times they are going to administer things wrong, sometimes to their own advantage, their own preference, partiality. Then this person is wrong, but because then this person is good friend, and to pass a judgment in favor of the other one. Problem of justice is not a God problem, it's a man problem. Now, in Ecclesiastes, Solomon looked at 4 things. The reality of injustice. The reality of injustice. In order for you to have justice, you must understand injustice. Let me say, and it come back to the same thing. In order for you to have love, there must be what? Hate. In order for you to understand what love is, you must know what hate is. In order for you to know what is good, you must know what is evil. In order for you to know trust, there must be betrayal. In order for you to fully understand these things. And that's why people ask, if God is a just God, why he allowed evil in the world now? Because of choice. And understand this deeply. Philosophers throughout the ages grapple with this, but understand this deeply. God did not want to make us robots. So as a result of that, he gave us choice. And the fact that you have choice, you must have options. In order for you to know good, you got to know what evil is. It doesn't necessarily mean that you must partake in evil. But, you know, in the garden, you realize Adam and Eve only had one commandment. They could do everything, only one commandment. Do not touch the fruit. They couldn't do anything else. Do not touch the fruit. In order for you to know obedience, there must be the ability not to obey, to prove obedience. In order for you to know if your husband loves you and trusts you, he must be able to look at other women and don't be tempted and follow in the trap because I love this lady, so I am not going to violate her. And let me tell you something. If I force you to love me, is that true love? You have to love somebody out of your own volition. And that's what God wants. God wants you to love him, but it got to be out of your own volition. Otherwise, that's not true love. So where there's justice, wickedness is right there. So the reality of injustice, look at Ecclesiastes. Well, we just read that. Look at verse 16, go down to verse 16. is Ecclesiastes 3:17, go to verse 3. And more I saw under the sun, the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and in the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. So when we think of justice, iniquity and justice is there, but it has to take the time. What is the decision? That's why when you go in the court of law, they're trying to say the law is blind. You cannot go an opinion. They want facts. Now, so here, they're acknowledging the presence of injustice in the world. Reflecting on the frustrations and questions it arises. Verse 17, we go back to verse 17. And I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time here for every to work. And that's true. Christian, and then when all of us have to stand before God, the bema seat. And our works will be tried and judged. Anyway, there's no one general resurrection. Christian will stand at the bema seat after the rapture and will be judged based on our work. But in the book of Revelation, then the unjust people will be judged at the white throne judgment. All your works and all your deeds, all of us have to appear before God. And this is the conclusion that Solomon came to. Then he looked up, warning against oppression and the perversion of justice. Ecclesiastes 5:8. If thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at that matter. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. Okay, I like the version you had first. Now what he's saying, when someone is in authority, if you see the oppression of the poor and the perversion of justice and the righteousness in the province, do not be astonished at this situation. Because one official protects another official. You look at that. That's why I like that. And a higher official protects. So, you have a person who is arbitrating a case, but he perverts justice and carry off a wrong sentence. Sometimes it's not that what he wants to do, but the one higher than him tell him do it. So you see right there, don't be astonished. Because one official protects another official. Lord, you see that in politics a lot. And higher officials protect them. So sometimes the law doesn't stop here. It goes further what? Up. So sometimes when the judge, you know, who whisper in his ear. So these are things that we see. So condemning the exploitation of the vulnerable. That's why when you have politics people put in people who favor them. So when they're doing the underhand deals and the dirty deals, this person, what? Protect them. It's only when government change and a new person go, you find out what went on. Because of this, as I said, not because the law say it, that means it's just. When in people, the path was to their own advantage. So ask yourself this question. Because the law says so, is it just? Wrestling, not only justice, but with injustice of life. Look at chapter 7, 15. In my futile life, I have seen everything. Remember, Solomon is old now. There is a righteous man who perishes in spirit in spite of his righteousness. And there is a wicked man who lives long in spite of his evil. Have you ever seen that? A lot of time it's the good people who are dying. And the wicked people live long. You know how much US president died before Castro? And they're trying to move this man. So a lot of times, when you look at life, it seems as though sometimes the wicked man or the wicked person live what? Long. And that's why some people say, why it happened to good people? But in reality, necessarily not good people. For all of us as sinners, there's none good. In the sight of God, there's none good. None righteous. But sometimes when Solomon is looking at that and he's pondering this and in marvel, sometimes the wicked seems to reign long. And look at this. Look at Iran. Look at how long the mullahs, the Khomeinis, them live reigning over years. President come, president go. And sometimes under the people, you look at letters, you see live long. And the righteous people, they go out like this. And Solomon is pondering about that. And I have often reflect of a young man with some foul foot around his neck. Boy, why are you doing that? Yeah, I'm walking up here because God does stay too long. And sometimes we have that. It seems as though justice is slow. But there's a saying said, the mill of the Lord grinds slow, but sure and fine. But even though wrestling with justice of life, offering a perspective in the fact of life injustices, God is still on the throne. Then we talk about patience in divine justice. Have patience. Look at Ecclesiastes 8:11. Ecclesiastes 8:11. Because the sentence against an act is not, therefore the heart of the people is filled with the desire to commit what? Crime. And sometimes this is the problem of the legal system. And we have it. A young man shoot a young man. 5 years ago up to now, they don't know who shoot the man. The people who say don't want to talk because they feel they're going to lose their life. So as a result of that, it encourages others to continue to do it, because justice is not carried out swiftly, but when justice is carried out swiftly, people fear. Because sentence against criminal acts is not carried out quickly, therefore the heart of the people is filled with the desire to commit crime. Means, oh, I could get away with it. And because justice seems like it's been delayed, people feel, well, do it. That's why you have to do it swift. Let me tell you something. You see, all this is not going to stop. Because justice. And because men has turned their back on God. God said, if you take a life by man, you shall die. Man said, oh no, give them life, you don't have to kill them. The Bible said, I am the one who give life. I am the one who take it. You have no right to take the life of our person. So where's the equity? If you take a life should be taken tooth for tooth, hand for hand. Eye for eye, life for life. That's equity, that's balance. Why put me lifetime in jail with eating taxpayers' money? And that's why the Lord put it, when justice, you see them, you talk about those Islamic and communist country, you commit a crime, then I wait, you know. And when they're done, they put you in firing squad, you know, and kill you. In those countries, you have less than 3% crime, you know. Because justice is administered what? Swiftly. And let me tell you something, parents. The greatest of you. Do wrong, do not smile at wrong. Stamp it out quickly. Well, he's a child. No. Deal with it swiftly and fast. You know, children, after they reach a certain age, they didn't have problem. And he said, here's the difference. When young, or even when the child, that's when he disciplined them hard. And then he didn't have to discipline them no more. Because they know what God stands for. But when the little heart kiss them up, when they rang, what you're going up a character in them. And let me tell you something, if you have a tree, when it is young, it is easy to bend it how you want it. But when it come old and the trunk get hard, you can't bend it, you go cut it down. So the younger you are, that's when the bending. Kiss them up. They do wrong. That's when they get older, you can't. You talk to them, they ain't studying you. He said, when they're young, he drive the not fearing them. So when they get older, he said he didn't himself have to hit them anymore. Because they're all ready. But here you know, you play with them. When they come big, that's when you want to beat them. What are you going to do? You know, they let it just a bounce. You just hurt your hand. It's too late then. So you got to administer these things what? Swiftly. So understanding the delay in justice and its implication. Encourage faith, perseverance in seeking justice. Concluding, summarizing key lessons from Ecclesiastes and justice. Inspiring action, advocacy for justice in our communities. Affirming trust in God's ultimate justice in the midst of uncertainty. And let me say this, in this world that we live in, justice would not be administered all the time. We are the Easter week. The greatest display of justice is at Calvary. And let me show you. The Bible said, God is holy. And the word holy, by the way, this is why we cannot have truth, justice without God. The word holy means without blemish, no faults, no blame, pure. When we look at the Bible, it's the attribute that is used the most about God is holy. I am the Lord, I am what? Holy. I am the Lord, I am holy. I am the Lord, I am holy. So that's why truth cannot be subjective based on me. Truth got to be objective, something out of us. How can we make the truth universal? The holiness of God. That's when you read in Leviticus, all those laws, it's tied to what? I'm holy. And because God is holy, and we are, the holiness of God demands justice. And the Bible said, for the wages of sin is death. The soul that sin shall surely die. Thus, all of us, we are condemned to death. The Bible said in John 3:17, we are condemned already. And because of that, all of us, we are on the way to hell. And we are not going to heaven because of, we are going to heaven because of grace. If any one of us, if God has to judge us based on his justice, no one will go to heaven. But yet justice had to be administered. How? Look how the brilliance of God. There is no one on this earth could atone for sin because only a righteous and a pure sacrifice can satisfy and pacify the wrath and judgment of God. And no man could get to that. The only person, the only being that is pure and righteous is God. And when we look at Calvary, we see three things. We see the forgiveness of God. we see the justice of God and we see the grace of God. The Bible said, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission for sin. But how God could orchestrate a plan that will not violate his holy justice, but yet save men. It's like story of a man who was a judge. And there was a criminal before him. And the judge had administered justice. The judge said, yes, bam, you shall die the death penalty. But they said that judge took off his robe, came down and said, but I will die in his stead. You see that? And this is what God done. We were standing in the courts of heaven, in the courts of glory, condemned to death. But God commended love towards us that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. God, a very God, came down and said, I am going to die for you. That's when Jesus Christ went on the cross. The Bible said he took on the sins of the whole world. And God, the first time, God turned his back on God. God turned away because he had sinned. What love! So the justice of God was pacified because one who satisfied the just meat, God himself, holy and pure, satisfied it. So justice was administered, but those of us, we got grace. So if we have to be judged by justice, none of us will go to heaven. It takes a righteous man who stand in our stead and take our punishment. So you see that? And because of that now, we are forgiven. We have that relationship with Jesus Christ, with God now. Because you see what happened? When Jesus Christ was on the cross, there was a great gulf between God and man. Jesus Christ went in on the cross. Let me ask you something. Would you go to jail, condemn? Would your husband stand up and take the penalty for you? You have your son that you love so much. He is guilty. Would you go and say, Judge, I am going to take his punishment? Now, Paul says, scarcely for an unrighteous man, one would care to die. You know what I mean? But God. You see the beauty? You see the beauty? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're here or if you're listening and you don't know Jesus Christ, what love, Peter said, to whom shall we turn to? Greater love than no man than this, than a man laid down his life for his friend. The greatest display of love. Let me tell you something, ladies. If you're in a relationship and you broke down with a man who don't treat you right and a man who don't respect you, what are you staying there for? Go to the greatest love. Jesus Christ. The one who cares for you. The one who died for you. Oh, why don't you just embrace that love? That's what this Easter, this Good Friday, this Easter, the resurrection is all about, demonstrating the greatest love. If you don't know him, this is an opportunity. And to those of us who are Christians, God demonstrated his love towards us so much. Be careful how we demonstrate his love. Don't commit adultery on God. When you go out there and you're doing things that are not right and pleasing unto God, and you're living, you're committing whoredom on God, who love you. That's why in the Bible, adultery is such a great sin. You remember, God sent Israel into captivity because of adultery. They turned their back and serve other gods. Don't. Because God said, I tend for you, and this is how you're treating me. Ladies, if you hear your husband cheating on you, how you can feel? Men, if you hear your wife cheating on you, how you can feel? So imagine God. Imagine God. God has emotions. That's why we are made in his image. The reason why we have emotions, because we are made in the image of God, and God have emotions. How do you know what is love? Because the Bible said, beloved, let us love one another. He that loveth not knoweth God, for God is what? Love. God grieves. God hurts. That's why I cannot understand why people will join other religion. I cannot understand the Muslims. The Muslims say, in order for them to go to heaven, they have to commit jihad. To show they're going to heaven, they have to commit jihad, kill a lot of people to go to heaven. I don't understand that. But this is I don't have to die for my God. My God died for me. You see the difference? I don't have to blood myself to prove anything. My God that I serve died for me. I don't have to die for him. The only son will die for him if somebody puts you to betray him. But I don't have to go kill people to prove that I love God. My God died for me. How could you serve a religion like that? Look at the equity, the morality of Christianity. I died for you. So he himself take revenge because it's mine. You see the difference? Again, if you don't know him, to understand justice, and in this world, we are not going to get the justice that we deserve all the time. Only when we get to heaven, we're going to see the justice of God. But because we're living in an evil and a sinful world, a lot of times, justice is not properly administered. That's why we have to trust God. And this world is not our own. Remember, Satan is the prince and the power of this world system right now. God, we come before you. We thank you for your word. And as we look at justice and we ponder justice in the book of Ecclesiastes, as we look at the topics of futility, wisdom, foolishness, folly, and justice. And as we look at the Easter weekend, we understand how the justice of God was satisfied. So because of grace, we are set free. Lord, just have your way. As we go throughout this week, as we reflect, when we look at the cross, see the justice of God. See the grace of God. Not only that, see the mercy of God. That's the mercy is not getting what we deserve. Grace is getting what we do not deserve. And all of that wrapped up in the cross on Calvary Hill over 2,000 years ago. Lord, just have your way. Take us home safely. In Jesus' name, amen.